All right? Okay, good. So, lovely venue, and, congratulate iDAC for organizing such an ambitious conference. After a long time, this has happened, in Bombay, probably after a couple of years. And also, thank you for inviting me, to speak at this prestigious event. Carl has, set up this thing. Can I have this? So, I'm going to actually not talk about projects, but I think, Carl has set it up really well about rating agnostic design, and I'm going to touch some of the issues. I think it also kind of, creates a chord with me quite well, actually, of doing rating agnostic design, because, we're not sure what we're chasing after. So, the world today is facing, broad and complex challenges that threaten every aspect of our lives. And as the effects of climate change intensify across the world, the architecture, engineering, and building industry, AEC as it's popularly called, I think is getting extremely aware of the looming crisis. I think, let me start you with some statistics actually. You'll be surprised to know that building and the construction sector is responsible for approximately 40% of the energy consumption, 39% of energy related carbon emissions, and 50% of resource consumption globally. Over the years, these figures are only going to increase, and growing economies like India will contribute significantly to this environmental crisis. I think many government organizations and climate conscious bodies are pushing for all new buildings and developments to achieve carbon neutrality by 2040. Architects, engineers, and all agencies involved in the goal of the building industry becoming carbon neutral must begin implementing sustainable strategies into their workflows to achieve this goal. There was a time not long ago, I've been practicing now for about 30 years, and there was a time not long ago when the goal of sustainability movement was to create an awareness amongst people that a problem exists. Those days are definitely behind us. And today a majority of the population, and I'm not talking just about architects, the general population, politicians, etc., understand the global problems such as climate change, air pollution, exposure to environmental toxins that threaten our future. Architects also understand that the built environment plays a significant role as both a cause of many of the problems, and also we have to find the solution to the problems that in a certain way we have created. More and more professionals see sustainable design as a major component of good design and want to improve the social, environmental, and long-term economic performance of projects that they are involved with. The problem that most architects face is not a lack of concern or intent, but the ability to achieve deeply sustainable projects amongst a myriad of competing priorities. High performance in buildings is often seen as something available only to a few ambitious projects, which has the right client, the right program, and the right budget. These are showcase projects as I see them. And I think I want to kind of change the bar here. These high performing buildings are definitely important as examples of what is possible and also for pushing the envelope. But these are few and far between. They will not solve the big environmental issues. Furthermore, the emphasis in our country is to do with rating systems, like what Carl said. And the standardized rating systems like USGBC, LEED, GRIHA have a role to play as they streamline sustainability for quick adoption in a project. However, these rating systems do not look at the design process in a holistic manner, and that's my biggest peeve about them. This often results in piecemeal, incremental changes to the design that are invisible to the user in terms of tangible benefits. So people are chasing ratings but are not really, getting or seeing the benefits of it. It's not kind of deeply ingrained. And they also add a significant administrative burden to an already overtaxed design administration, which discourages clients from adopting them. So a lot of buildings where we're doing a lot of the green principles, but clients do not want to go in for a rating purely because the administrative issues of dealing with rating is quite significant, and they don't really want to deal with that. What is required, I think, is a more holistic and comprehensive design approach to sustainability, which goes beyond rating systems. The current problem is that different rating systems have different agendas and parameters. A lot of them focus a lot more on energy, some focus on carbon neutrality, but there is no rating system that kind of looks at it holistically. For example, one of the rating systems which is very popular in the West is the rating system called WELL, W-E-L-L, which actually looks at the health what you mentioned, sir, about the health and the well-being of the inhabitants. Like, for example, the rating systems like Griha or LEED don't look at wellness as a very major factor. So I'm just saying that all rating systems have their own biases, which they kind of, you push after. And I think what is required here is a more kind of holistic approach. And the architect's call to protect health, safety, and the welfare of its occupants has a new and broader meaning amid challenges such as increasing climate extremes and social inequity. Architects must recognize that our profession can harness the power of design to contribute to solutions addressing the most significant needs of our time. Building professionals should look at this as a big opportunity, I think. Every project should be used as a platform for addressing big problems and provide creative solutions. Okay. So I would like to introduce you to a framework for design excellence, which has been developed by international scholars and practitioners. The framework is comprised of 10 defining principles of good design in the 21st century. This framework seeks to inform progress towards a low energy, low carbon, equitable, resilient, and a healthy built environment. As a practice, we have been working with these principles over the last 3 years and have found them to be immensely helpful. So this becomes a checklist for us when we do any kind of project, and I'll run you through each of these 10 principles that I think should be followed as general rules, and I think they're immensely helpful. These should be thoughtfully considered by the design community at the initiation of every project and incorporated into the design process from an early stage, regardless of the size, typology, or aspiration. So the 10 are design for integration, design for equitable communities, design for ecology, design for water, design for economy, design for energy, design for wellness, design for resources, design for change, and design for discovery. I will now briefly discuss each of these principles and focus points that each principle attempts to address. So the first one is design for integration. Good design elevates any project, no matter how small, with a thoughtful process that delivers both aesthetics and functionality in a mature balance. It is the element that binds all the principles together with the big idea. What is the concept or purpose behind the project, the design agenda as I would call it, and how will the priorities with the 9 other principles inform the project? How will the project engage the senses and connect people to place? Integrated design process that respects multiple viewpoints and engages diverse stakeholders. What design strategies can provide multiple benefits across the triple bottom line of social, economic, and environmental value? The second is design for equitable communities. Design solutions affect more than the client and the final occupants. Good design positively impacts future occupants and the larger community. How can the design process remove barriers and promote inclusion and social equity, particularly with respect to vulnerable communities? What is the project's greater reach? How could this project contribute to create a diverse, accessible, walkable, just, and human-scaled community? What might this project be forgetting? How can the design process create a diverse, how can the project design process and outcome remove barriers and promote inclusion and social equity? What opportunities exist in the project to include, engage, and promote human connection? How can the design support health and resilience for the community during times of need and emergencies, as what we've seen in the current COVID crisis? The next project is design for ecology. Good design mutually benefits humans and non-human habitants. How can the design support ecological health of its place over time? How can the design build resilience and support regional habitat restoration? How can the design help users become more aware and connected with regional ecosystems? How is the project supporting regional habitat restoration? This includes designing landscape composed of 100% native planting, especially species that attract pollinators. The next issue is design for water. Good design conserves water and improves the quality of water as a precious resource. Does the project use water wisely, addressing both efficiency and consumption? How can the project's water systems maintain function during emergencies or disruptions? How does the project handle rainfall and stormwater responsibly? How does a project contribute to a healthy regional watershed? And there should be a sincere attempt to do a net zero water building. A lot of scholars have said that the next war in the world is going to be fought over water actually. Water is going to be a precious resource. We're kind of harping a lot on energy, but water is going to be a very, very critical component of what we do. The next is design for economy. Good design adds value for owners, occupants, community, regardless of project size and budget. How does the design balance cost and long-term value? How can the performance of the project be improved in ways that are tangible? Keeping the building footprint as minimal as possible, living within our means, not building more than we need, very critical. Flexible spaces, very, very critical. Spaces that are put to multiple use rather than building more and more. How will the design balance long-term value, appropriate choice of materials? How can the performance of the project be improved that are cost and design neutral? Design for energy. Good design reduces energy use and eliminates dependence on fossil fuels while improving building performance, function, and comfort and joy. How can passive design strategies contribute to the project's performance and form? Passive design strategies include orientation, sun path, wind direction, appropriate wall to window ratios. Now these cost nothing. This has to be incorporated right at the beginning of the project, not as a retrofit. How can the project approach low energy and low carbon? And I'm just saying that it is important to start with low energy and low carbon and then move towards zero energy and zero carbon. There'll be few projects that you will be able to achieve zero energy and zero carbon. But I think if in a lot of projects, if we can achieve low energy and low carbon, I think at a much larger scale, I think we will be much better off, I would say, for multiple projects. It's better to do 10 projects with low energy, low carbon, rather to do one project with zero energy, zero carbon. That's my take on it. The next is design for wellness. Good design supports health and well-being of its occupants. This includes physical, mental, and emotional effects on the building's occupants. How can the design encourage a healthier lifestyle? How can the project provide greater comfort for the occupants? How can the project be welcoming and inclusive? How can the project connect people and nature? This includes natural daylighting for its occupants, views from the outside, not having dark spaces, and can the material selection reduce hazards to its occupants? The next, the eighth principle is design for resources. Good design depends on informed material selection, balancing priorities to achieve a durable, safe, healthy projects with an equitable, sustainable supply chain to minimize possible negative impact. What factors will be considered in making material selection decisions? How are materials selected and designed to reduce embodied carbon and environmental impacts while enhancing building performance? How does the project celebrate local materials and craft? How does the project promote zero waste throughout its life cycle? The ninth principle is design for change. I think adaptability, reuse, resilience are good to design. Rather than demolishing and building anew, I think building projects which can be used for other facilities, I think is very good. Not every project can do that, but I think one is seeing all over the world where projects are being redesigned for various things. Like I've seen a hotel building getting converted to a hospital, etc., etc. So I think design for change, I think, is important. How does the project address flexibility and adaptability? Now, this may not be relevant in every project, but I think it's important to keep it at the back of one's mind. And how is the project designed for changing market conditions and future uses? And the last one is design for discovery. Every project represents a unique opportunity to apply lessons from the past and gather information to refine the design and construction process. How can the design process foster a long-term relationship between designers, users, and operators to ensure design intentions are realized and project performance can improve over time? How are the lessons learned through construction shared with the project teams? How are the experiential stories of the occupants after the building is finished shared, and even the findings fall short of the original vision? So I think sharing experiences of how the building kind of behaves post completion with end users is extremely critical, which we tend to kind of forget. So I come back to these 10 principles, and I sincerely hope that this framework harnesses the power of design in a holistic manner to contribute to solutions addressing the issue of sustainability comprehensively. The framework for design excellence, as it is called, challenges architects with a vision of what the profession strives to achieve. This framework is designed to provide relevant issues and questions to architects to incorporate deep green principles in every project and hopefully design high-performing, equitable and beautiful buildings. I'd like to end with a quote of Albert Einstein, and he says, "The world will not evolve past its current state of crisis by using the same thinking that created the situation." Thank you and have a great evening.